Okay, Leigh Marcus, welcome.
Thanks, Neil.
Very, very cool. We are so excited to have you on board today and share some things with our group. For those of you that don't know Leigh, he's been a superstar in the Mike Ferry world for a long time in Chicago area, right? Correct?
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool. Very, very cool. So why don't you just take a minute, share a little bit of, give us the Reader's Digest of Leigh a little bit, and then we'll kind of walk through this, share some different things, and you can tell us what's going on in Chicago with the COVID virus.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I work the downtown Chicago market, which is like, it's urban and residential, densely populated. And I started in real estate in 2007, which was awesome. I thought, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to do some open houses. Like, this is going to be easy. My career before that was in sales for IBM and a couple of other technology companies. So I had thought I kind of retired into real estate. Like, this is going to be cakewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2008, like a year later hit, and
right.
Pardon me, but shit got real. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened, because all of the realtors that were at the top stopped working, didn't know what to do. And I met Mike Ferry in January. I started coaching January 2009, and finally somebody told me what to do. And it's exactly what I had done in sales before, which is prospect. And so,
right. So you were trained in the IBM way.
Mm-hmm.
So describe a little bit of that to us. What was how did IBM start you off? What did they expect of you?
So it was like a 3-month training program where you go, and they send you through. You don't have to be, you're not selling at all at that point. They're just training you on the products. They're training you on their system. It's like a consultative selling method that they used, and understanding, uncovering the prospect's needs and how you can address those.
Okay. So you were getting a lot of information, kind of, I guess I would say in real estate, you were previewing a lot of property.
Previewing a lot of property, exactly.
Previewing a lot of property, learning a lot of scripts and dialogues.
Right, like booklets, binders of product knowledge, and before they ever put you in front of a client.
So did they expect you to show up on time?
Yes.
And how early could you go home? Could you leave and go home with the kids at 3 p.m?
No, there was none of that. No.
It was like a real job.
It was like a real job. Yeah. You had to, this is how crazy it was. Like you had you had to report your numbers every single day. And
oh, wait, report numbers.
Yeah. Could you believe that? They wanted it, they want to make sure you're doing something. So they wanted to know what you're doing. So I had to report my numbers every single day, every week, have a weekly total. And then every deal that we were working on, they would put on a projector so that all of your fellow salespeople in a room, and they would put the deals you're working on up on the projector, and you had to defend why you're working on that deal and why it's going to close. And if you couldn't defend it, they would yank it from you, and because you had to make sure those people were qualified, and you had to defend yourself instead of in front of this room of 15 other salespeople about all the deals you're working on, like as if you had all these listings.
So I'm kind of curious, what was the most approximate that you ever made with IBM?
108,000.
108,000, and that was what year?
2006.
What was the first year you topped $1 million in sales for real estate?
2013.
And when did you go over 3 million?
2017.
Interesting. Fantastic. Well, congratulations. So you're making a little bit more money than you were making at IBM. However, it kind of sounds like you do a similar work today that you did then. You just get paid a lot more money for it.
Exponentially more.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that. What's that look like? What is
Well, no, when I
Leigh's
was at
day
IBM,
look
we
like?
had like real competitors. We had like real competition.
Explain.
So everybody else that you were competing against, Dell, HP, CD, like whatever, whatever other, they were like, they were high producers. Otherwise they didn't have a job. So everybody that you were competing against was everybody that had a job they were qualified salespeople. So like every appointment you went on, you were competing against really, really tough competition.
So it would be like you going on every listing appointment. You were going against Karen Bernardi and Neil Weichel.
That's exactly what it was like. Yes. Plus, a lot of times they had the relationship. So not only was I going against people like that, but they had the relationship in place for 20 years.
Ah,
You're right. Yeah, it was
brutal.
yes.
So, okay. So when you came into real estate, you felt like you were retiring.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. I mean, what did you do to start how'd you get started in real estate?
My wife Lindsay was a realtor first. She was a
Okay.
realtor for 2 years before I joined. So I saw her doing open houses, and like she was like, she made like $100,000 her second year or something, 2007 or whatever it was. And this was a cakewalk.
Compared to what you were having to do.
Yeah.
And you were getting $108,000 for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. So tell me about that first year in real estate. What'd you do?
Worked with a lot of unqualified buyers that
Mm-hmm.
didn't buy, and just banged my head against the wall. And
you hadn't met Mike yet.
Had not met Mike yet. No, I did. I was at Keller Williams, so I did have a KW coach, like a MAPS coach, and that was not that good.
Okay.
And so it didn't really lend much insight into, I don't know, it was okay. But anyway, I don't want to put down any coach. It just wasn't it wasn't clicking.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
So you were trying to learn the business for that first year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But how much money did you make that first year?
Look at my numbers analyzer. I'm guessing it was like 50 grand.
Okay. And then you met Mike.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what happened. What?
My first coach was Monica Reynolds. Do you remember?
Sure, of course.
And she said, "Get to work, Buttercup."
Okay.
And,
so what'd you do? I mean, what were some of the first things you took on?
So I took on, so back in 2009, not many people were calling expired listings in Chicago. So like I was one of the first 3 people calling expireds. And so it was an open market, like it was amazing. And so I started calling expireds. FSBOs, I built a big business on FSBOs at that point. So I was calling for sale by owners. They weren't really selling on their own. I mean, and the expired listings, there were some really, really good expired listings that just hadn't sold. So expireds, for sale by owners, I did just listed, just sold, and then I did our database. So because my wife had been a realtor for 2 years at that point, we did have like a past client database of like 50 people, plus just everybody we knew. So I started calling. The best thing I did was I started calling our past clients and just our whole center of influence from like day one.
Okay. And you used them, when you say day one with Mike Ferry or day one with KW?
Mike Ferry.
Okay. So the KW didn't have you do that.
Yeah. If they did, I don't remember.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you're calling past client and sphere. You're starting to do business that way with expireds for sale by owners, previewing property, learning the scripts, learning the dialogues, and kind of working from there. Nothing. Was it way different than what we teach today?
No. It's all like the rules don't change. The basics don't change.
Okay.
It was all that. That's exactly it.
But we have a lot of agents, Leigh. A lot of agents come into the business and start kind of the way you do, and hopefully they get a coach, whether it's a Mike Ferry coach or coach, somebody that's helping them. and they're making contacts and they're learning scripts and they're calling past client and sphere, et cetera, et cetera. And after your first year, you did about what kind of business?
So with Mike in 2009, I think I did 300,000. So I did, how many deals was that? Like
30 deals?
Yeah.
So about 30 deals?
Wait, how many deals?
30.
No, that's California prices, Neil.
Okay.
No,
How many deals?
That's like 50 deals in the real world.
Well, wait a minute. You're downtown Chicago. It's expensive.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. But yeah.
So 50 deals?
Yeah, 50 deals. Yeah.
50 deals working the system.
Working
Okay.
the system. Yeah, I think my second year I did about 50 deals.
Okay, but other people, other agents work the system, but they don't get 50 deals.
So, okay. Back in 2002 or so, I lost when I first got out of college. I had a job and I lost my job after like a year. 9/11 happened, the Twin Tower, all that happened.
Sure.
And I thought I would just get another job and all that. And I was unemployed for like 6 months. And I swore I would never let that happen again, ever. I mean, it was just such a traumatic thing to just be like, to not be working, to not have a job. And so I think when I started in real estate, my enthusiasm and my drive to succeed was probably 10 times what anybody else that was working was, that I found. So I would say, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, okay, so you weren't going to fail that, but we all say that. Every single one of us. I remember starting my first year. I didn't sell 50 houses my first year, and I knew Mike. I knew he was a little younger at the time, and he had, his hair was not quite as gray, but I didn't do that. What makes Leigh? That's what I'm trying to understand here. Sorry, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Sorry?
All right. So what makes Leigh? So enthusiasm, I would say, like, I don't know, if I make 25 calls or 50 calls, I feel like the level, especially back then, the level that I showed up in those calls with enthusiasm and market knowledge and product knowledge and like just not taking no for an answer, like I feel like somebody else can make the same 50 calls and not get the same results. So number one, I would say, is enthusiasm.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. Good.
Number two was, like being the guy. So being the guy, right? So yes, I worked a wider market, but I also worked a really narrow market. So if I sold a home, I would call all the homes to the left and right. Like instead of just making any random cold calls, like I really made it relevant. And so expireds, like I really tried to narrow the focus so that, if somebody drives around, I don't know if you drove around an area, you see one realtor's for sale sign. If you see there's a second sign, you think they own the whole neighborhood. And so
that's what you tried to do.
What's up?
So that's what you tried to do.
Right. So like I would try to get listings on major streets or main streets so that my sign, they'd see my sign a lot more. I'd get it on like corners so I can put two signs, one on one side of the street, one on one side, one on the other. Like, so just, and having as many signs within a local area as I could was like an exponential effect. And so now, I've been building that over the years. So now in my local marketplace, so we have, 5 or 10,000 homes. I probably have 18% market share just in my neighborhood. And I have 20% market share in the $1 million price point, which in our area is the high end.
Right.
Because by being the guy, right? By like focusing, Neil, I would say, focusing on, and so, you can do the same thing in your sphere. So like, it's not just who you know, it's who knows you. And so just really trying to be that same guy, being the go-to guy in my database as I am in the neighborhood. Does that make
So
sense?
yeah, yeah. Well, it makes total sense to me. So kind of, I say, and I think what you're saying is to get bigger, you have to get smaller.
Yes. Like if I was doing it all, like I don't know how many people have never called their street that they live on as a just listed, just sold call.
Probably everybody, almost.
Has not or has?
I would say in general, most don't.
That would be like the first thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, you start where your house is and you go left and you go right. And then you just go out, like you start with like where you are because you live there.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense? Is that
Yeah,
like,
totally. So do you actually, so when you get a new listing, so it sounds like you focus on trying to get a listing in a certain area that's visible, and
yeah,
then you try to get another listing in that same area that's visible, and then just keep playing off of that.
yes.
That
And
is
so
that
then
what you're talking about?
you don't have to start at zero every single day. Yes, start mentally at zero, but you start with this asset of name recognition, whatever you want to call it. So like impact. So if I can make 10 calls into my neighborhood and I can get a listing because the impact, they already know my name, they know my reputation, right? So I don't have to, I
You're
can get
pre-sold
more.
walking in the front door.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Pre-sold commodity coming in the front door.
Yes.
Good for you. Smart move. It's very smart.
So,
Okay, so we're going to move forward here. We're going to fast forward. And is this the base from which you built the business? I mean, do you go out and buy Zillow leads and those kinds of things, or
zero.
no Zillow leads?
No.
You're kidding.
No. I mean,
So how many deals,
they took enough of
what's
my
your
money
goal
at
this
some
year?
point.
What's your goal this year?
My goal is 200 deals.
Okay. And you're on track right now to hit that?
Yes. Yeah,
Got
I'm
it.
on track right now to hit that. I had the best start to my year ever this year. So I've taken 97 listings so far this year.
Wow. That's very good. So 97 listings. Is that you? Is that you and your wife? Is there more to the team?
That's me.
So do you work with your wife?
Oh, sorry.
On
Yeah.
this?
So she runs the office. So she's the brains, and she helps like she does culture, morale, HR, all the stuff that yeah, payroll. She's in the other room. She says, she reminds me, payroll.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many people on the staff?
I have four. I have three listing managers who also do contracts. So my listing managers also do contract to close, and then I have an executive assistant. So I have 3 listing managers and an executive assistant.
How about buyers agents and listing agents?
I have 2. So I have 2 buyers agents. So between them, they'll do about 40 deals.
Okay.
And then what was the last one?
Other listing agents besides yourself?
Yeah. So one of my buyers agents actually is a sponge, and I've trained him on how to take listings. So as of the last few months, I've just been sending him out on some listing appointments to get listings, and he's been really good about it.
So, but that's not part of your 97.
Yeah. I mean, he went and took them for me, but yeah.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So how is the COVID virus affecting your business today?
It's so health aside, it's been good. It really hasn't slowed down too much for us. Like if anything, it's been helping because I can show people, like people are surprised that things are still selling. And so when everything is selling and you say that you're selling homes, you don't really stand out. But when things, people think the market's not moving and you're selling homes, you can just stand out so much more. So
how are you leveraging that right now?
Okay. So for example, so here, let's see. You know what? Can I share my screen with you?
Sure. Hold on. Let me give you control. I think Robert can. I don't know if you
He
can
doesn't
give
need
control.
control to be able to share a screen. He can share it.
Okay.
All right, so here you go. So here's my screen, right? All right, so here are all the sales. So in Chicago, so we have a stay-at-home order, okay, stay in place where you can't leave the house, right? Since March 20th, here's all the realtors that have sold a home in the city of Chicago, okay,
Right.
in the whole city. So on a listing appointment, here's what I bring up, right? Like, okay, I've sold 3 times as many homes as the #2 realtor in the whole city of Chicago since the shelter in place order has gone into effect.
Oh, so this is since the shelter in place order.
Yes.
Interesting. So it's not since the first quarter. That's
Right.
a very powerful statement.
Yeah. So that's how I've been capitalizing on it. Like, so on listing appointments, I've been bringing that out, right? Does that make sense? Like showing that, like, okay,
For
that's great.
sure.
That's great that that you're interviewing that person, but let's see, what have they done since COVID, since the shelter in place order?
Got it. Powerful. Powerful. So that's on a listing appointment. So does your script change in your prospecting lately?
Just more, more like Mike says, more kind, more compassionate, like, Neil, everybody healthy and safe there. Great.
Right.
Good. I was calling because, and then go into it from there. So just, being more compassionate upfront.
Cool. That's great. Are you, Mike says to incubate, his new word. I didn't even know he knew that word. He says, so are you incubating more?
Yeah, I am incubating more, but I feel like I've always, so Mike, when I first got into coaching in 2009 or so, I asked Mike, like, what should we be doing? And he said, focus 50% of your time on right now business and 50% of your time on future business. I kind of took that to be a little bit of incubation. So I've always thought, like, okay, just because they don't want to do something right now doesn't mean, not to follow up with them. Right?
Fantastic. Very cool.
So weekly, I don't know, like weekly email systems or whatever you guys have. So obviously, does C21 send out something weekly?
What we do as an organization, we encourage our agents to email weekly, snail mail monthly, and call every other month.
That's awesome. Okay.
Past client and sphere.
Yeah.
Right.
So, every expired I talk to goes into the system, right? And so they're getting the weekly emails and then they're getting my calls, and yeah, so that's part of the incubation.
Okay, so that's a differentiator. So you take every listing that you make the call to and put it in an incubation system or a past client follow-up system?
Yeah, just, whatever, any email I ever get, now we're up to like 17,000, right? They get my weekly email.
Wow, good for you. Fantastic.
So
How many contacts a day are you doing?
I let some of that do the heavy lifting, right? So that when
Sure.
I call, or I started mailing them some of those leads monthly also. Like if they're a pretty good lead, I'll mail them monthly as well. So I don't put them into I use Top Producer as my database. So I don't really put them into Top Producer, but whatever, prospecting system, I have my assistant mail out monthly, just like a just sold card or something, just listed, just sold card, so that my leads get a just listed card or just sold card.
The 17,000 email addresses and however many addresses, the total database is 17,000 now, or that, I think something like that.
Yeah.
Is that 17,000 downtown Chicago?
Yeah, past client. Yeah. I mean,
But
I probably have
it's,
some of you guys in there, but yeah.
so it's pretty. So you've taken this market and worked to own it.
Yeah. So maybe that's part of the incubation, right? So let's say I make 30 contacts a day, whatever, 200 a year, 200 days a year. You're at
6,000.
So you're at 6,000 a year times the past 12 years. So I've made 72,000 contacts. Whatever email addresses I've ever gotten have gone into the system.
Got it. and that's part of the 17,000, and that's the exponential follow-up. But
Yeah.
you're not working Illinois, you're not even working Chicago, you're working downtown Chicago.
Right. So I have like a 5-mile radius.
Wow. Wow. Good for you. That's fantastic. So COVID's not affecting you all that much, the stay in place, all that kind of stuff you're doing,
Well, so
staying
the thing about
healthy.
COVID, sorry, can we talk about that for a moment?
No, go ahead, sure.
So this is so much different than 2008, because in 2008, the inventory was so high, right? There was like 12 months of inventory, 15 months of inventory. So even if you wanted to sell your home, you'd have to drop your price like 20% to sell it. Now, the inventory is so much lower that when you look at the supply and demand, it just looks more like a fall or winter market versus a spring market. And so I realized if I just change the prices on my listings 5% or so, they'll sell.
Right.
And so I'm just treating it more like a fall, like a slower time of year market, because Chicago is very seasonal, right? Like 70% of our sales happen the first part of the warmer months.
Right. Absolutely.
So just adjusting pricing for that if it's priced right, like you said, Neil, like Melinda's home that just came back into contract, if it's priced right, it'll sell.
Leigh, let me shift gears with you a little bit. I want to go back to mindset for a minute. Sounds like you make nice money. Sounds like you have a pretty nice life. You're pretty focused. You seem healthy. How do you get up in the morning and do your job at the high level that my sense is you're still doing your job at?
So I think, I never told you this, but I think I got some of this from you.
And that was?
Yeah, so somebody once told me that Neil Schwartz said that having your real estate license is like winning the lottery.
He has said that.
And like,
that is a quote.
You know, like you have this $1 million ticket right here or $3 million ticket. You just have to go claim it. And all you got to do to go claim the ticket is get up, pick up the phone, and, you know, like I don't have to lay any brick, you know, I don't have to do any concrete work. I don't really have to build any physical houses. I just have to find people that want to buy or sell. And so I just feel like I won the lottery every day. And so I think I approach what we do with like a grateful heart, that like, this is insane. Like, I just remember what it was like trying to convince people to buy what I was selling at IBM and like how complicated that was. And now I could call somebody, meet with them in the afternoon and list their home and sell it. Like, this just makes no sense. The sales cycle is so much shorter. So
way less complicated.
Very less complicated. So I don't know. I feel like we just, it's, how do I do it every day? It's more of a pull than a push. It's more of a, like, we're just lucky to be doing what we are doing. Like, this opportunity is so insane. I don't know. I don't want to mess it up.
Right.
Does that make sense? Is that?
100%. I mean, totally.
And also like approaching it like we have this responsibility, right? To like, we know what it's gonna, we're good agents. Everybody on this call is good agent. Like, we have this ability to help people through this process better than anybody else.
All right, great thought. Couple of questions here from a couple of our agents on the chat. Josie asked, you had mentioned that your wife works on the culture.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Maybe I can have her tell you. She's right here. Hold on one second. Hey, Lens? Yeah. I didn't tell her she was going to be on here, but you know.
Hey, Lynn, welcome.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Perfect. So thank you for this. I appreciate it. I thank you for the time. Leigh was talking about culture and that you're in charge of it. Can you tell us more about what that means in your organization?
I think culture is a lot about having like-minded people that you're working around, people who are equally as hardworking and who want to serve. So when we find good people, we want to retain them.
Got
when you
it.
have good energy and like-minded people, so much more is possible. It's exponential. So I just need to find really great people to surround Leigh with so that he can stay on the phone and those people care as much about his clients as he does.
That's a great thought. That's really good. You should write that down. Package
So
that.
what
That was
culture is.
great.
Like she's the one who like she checks in with everybody. Like, how are you doing? Like she knows what's going on in everybody's personal life on our team. Like she's the she's the glue.
Amiable.
Yeah.
She's the amiable.
Nice.
You guys are
Fabulous.
blessed to to have each other. That is so cool. It's beautiful. It really is. Congratulations.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tell me, let's see.
What his email around is just sold.
Yeah. Thanks.
Most of my mailings are just sold list, just sold mailers. That's it.
Just listed, just sold kind of things.
So either one property or like I'll have a box of 6 properties with like a sash under contract or sold. So, and then I do that to my neighborhood too. We've cut it back since COVID. I've kind of cut my marketing expenses a little bit, but I mail my neighborhood every month.
Okay. And how many pieces of mail is that?
5,000.
Okay.
Which I think that's like $1,800 a month or something.
Okay. And that's your biggest marketing expense like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
But
Cool.
that's when you do that, then when like, I can't tell you how many listings I've gotten from just walking the dog, but then they know my face from you know what I mean? Like they put everything together. And so like, it's a small investment I wouldn't lead with that. I didn't do that when I first started, but I took part of the profits. As long as I keep it under 5% of total income, I feel like it's reasonable.
Right. Michael, you wanted to know how many contacts a day. I think you mentioned you were at 30 a day.
Yeah, 20, more like 25. I was at, my numbers analyzer would say the most I've ever been at overall is 32.
Got it.
But 25.
Oh, that's
So the
great.
goal, yeah.
Let's see. Iris said you enter every one of your contact that you talk to in your database.
Just into like whatever system you're using, whatever calling system you're using, I just export that every week to our email system.
But you have to have talked to the person, correct? You don't just download everyone in Chicagoland into your database.
For my weekly email, I do.
But it's everybody. It's not for your weekly email is 17,000 people, but those are all people that you've found their email addresses somehow.
Yes, they were expired. They were right, exactly, somewhere. Yes, correct.
They were an expired or for sale by owner.
Right. I don't go like buying random lists and adding. No,
that's what I meant.
Yes,
okay.
No,
you don't do that.
No.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Very cool. Michael, he wants to know, 25 contacts doesn't seem like a lot. What lead source are you calling?
So that's been the whole plan over this whole time, is just upgrade who I'm calling so that the numbers go down. So like my first year in the business, I think I had to do 150 contacts to a listing, right? And then it was like 130 and then 100 and then 90. And so now I think I'm at like 25 contacts per listing, because you're upgrading the level of who you're calling, right? So if I call an expired, but they're in my neighborhood and they know my name, they've seen my sign, they know how many calls do I have to make?
Right.
So it's just like high impact. So I just continually upgrading who I'm calling. So like I've outsourced my buyer's agent offered to do some of my lead follow-up for me. And it's like, you know what, that's probably a good idea, because I might be calling them 10 or 15 times to get an appointment, whereas I can go call 5 people and get an appointment. Does that make sense? So just upgrading the level, who you're calling.
Again,
the people that know,
to get
the more
bigger,
people
you have to get smaller.
Know you or know of you, the less contacts you have to make.
So,
Sorry.
That's all right. Sounds like, so it sounds like whenever you go out, you live, let me back up. You live in downtown Chicago area?
The residential neighborhood part. Yeah, it's called Roscoe Village. So yeah, like a residential part of downtown. Yeah.
Okay. So when you go to the store, you get gas, you get your hair cut, your wife does those kinds of things. You are a local celebrity.
Yes.
God, how long did that take you to do?
Probably 4 years.
How many?
4 years.
4 years. So you started that part of your job when?
So I started that probably in 2013 or 14. Okay, so what I did was I bought a home in like the second highest priced area in Chicago that there was no top realtor. And so I bought up.
Intentionally?
What's up?
Intentionally?
You know, I didn't want to buy like where I just thought of like the other top realtors that live in this neighborhood. Like, I'm going to buy here. This is a good neighborhood, good family neighborhood. And there wasn't really a top realtor. So I wanted to be that guy. So I bought, first of all, buying a home in that area gives you access. So now you have $1 million home. You're selling homes in the price range you want to be selling in. Like, that was the best investment I ever made, was to buy the big home. Not too big, but the home of the price point I want to sell.
So up to that point, you were calling expireds for sale by owner, some past client and sphere, and building your business, just building your business without that focus.
Correct. So building it on just past client, building it on that.
But it was all, it was still downtown Chicago-ish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So you never left that theory. You just then started getting it smaller and smaller and smaller.
That's it.
And your price point went up and up and up.
Yes.
What's your average sales price now?
Mine is probably $650.
Okay.
But that includes, $3 million homes and $200,000 condos.
And you have over $1 million. What percentage of that market do you have?
20%.
20% of all the homes in downtown Chicago.
In my neighborhood, sorry, in my neighborhood. Not downtown
your neighborhoods.
Chicago. No, downtown Chicago,
Okay.
That's a bigger market. Just my neighborhood.
Okay, 20% in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Got it. And in the overall Chicagoland, what are you doing?
Probably 0.5%.
In Chicagoland. Okay, got it. But in your markets, what would you call it? What percentage are you to have?
Yeah, well, so in my neighborhood, which is my target market, it's about 18 to 20%. And in my overall market, in each neighborhood, I'm probably top 1 to top 5
Agent.
realtor. So
Got it. This is great. It's fantastic. We got a couple of
after purchase the home at a second expensive area, what did you do to become a top agent in the neighborhood? So to Yulin Hong's question.
Yes.
So I'm cautious to say this. I got it from Fahad Assad, mentioned it to me. So I was at a retreat. The executive club, Neil, right? You're at executive club. Like, how much does that pay for itself, right? So I'm sitting next to Fahad Assad, and I said, hey, I just bought a home in this neighborhood. How do I take over the neighborhood? And she said, oh, here's what you do. Okay, what do I do? Okay, so send a postcard to the neighborhood. Call around, call any expired that pops up, call that expired. Any FSBO that pops up, call that FSBO. Call your whole database in that neighborhood. And send a postcard every 10 days to the neighborhood with a just sold. And I'm like, well, I've only sold like 2 homes. She's like, that's fine. Send one the first week, send it the second week, send it again the first, like, they don't recognize. So I just started doing that. And I already had started to get some sales, and then I just kept going. Does that make sense? So I built that name brand recognition, but I was very focused on where I was doing it.
Absolutely. Good. Fantastic. Joe asked, besides Top Producer, what other systems are you using to contact people? Or to keep track of people?
And then there's just a calling one.
Sorry?
Then there's just like Mojo and Vulcan and those.
Yeah, and you use those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any one better than the other for you?
The one you use.
I love it. I love it. Okay, good job. And as Patty had asked the question, did you start off with 5,000 in your market, or did you start in the smaller neighborhood?
Yeah, that was like, I was just based on my budget. I was like, where can I My exact neighborhood was about 5,000. So I did go out to 20,000 at one point, and it wasn't worth it. It was like, oh, I didn't get the return, so I just focused on my exact neighborhood.
Got it.
So again, I don't know everybody's neighborhood. Like if there's 20 people mailing and they're all top producers, I don't know what the return is, but like where I was doing it and I was having the sales, there just wasn't, it was working, it's got a little bit of traction.
Leigh, this has been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What would you like to leave? What message would you like to leave? And for us during this right now, is there a particular thought that you'd like to leave us with?
First of all, how lucky they are to be in an office like yours, where like first of all, trying to get 50 people to something like this is amazing. So I don't know, just to have this type of office with the leadership and Rob, and yeah, I mean, that's just awesome. So
Thank you.
I was looking at your calendar, Neil, of like what the training, like what you have every day. And it was just amazing.
Thank you.
So the opportunity you have to succeed is huge. Number two, it's like, just think big. Like there's no reason anybody can't be the number one agent wherever, like your neighborhood, because you can, like, all you got to do is call people and like be that person. And it doesn't have to be constant expires and FSBOs. Like, yes, call expires, call FSBOs every day, but then get to your database and build your name and be the resource inside of your whole database. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And then lastly, I would say 2009, I was 3 months away from getting out of real estate and failing. And just put my head down and like did exactly what you say to do and not stop.
Wow. Well, it's great. It's a great story, Leigh. And from my perspective, I think it's only the beginning of what you're capable, you and your wife, of accomplishing. It's impressive as hell. Congratulations.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah,
Nice to see you.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Leigh. I appreciate it.